Openings, closings, expansions, comebacks, updates. The restaurant business is always busy being born and sometimes busy dying. I'm Chris Herrington, and this week on Soundbites, I'll be joined by Daily Memphian digital director Holly Whitfield to hash out some recent happenings on the Memphis restaurant scene. But first, you can find all of our food stories and this podcast at dailymemphian.com. You can also sign up for our weekly Table Talk newsletter. You can catch Soundbites Thursdays at 11 a.m. left of the dial at 91.7 FM WYXR, your crosstown radio, or subscribe to it in podcast form wherever you get your audio, along with all of the other pods we do here, including the return of the Tiger Sports pod, basketball and football, hosted by Greg Gaston, has made its return. And with basketball season looming, the Grizzlies podcast will get back to a regular schedule. You can hear me on that as well, along with Eric Barnes' Sidebar podcast, Bill Drees on politics, all kinds of good stuff. If you're a Facebook user, we encourage you to join our Table Talk group there as well. What's up, Holly?
Hello. There is a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. So before we get into the new, let's go back to the old. Let's do a little bonus content from last week's episode. It was Natalie and I last week. Natalie refuses to get on the microphone this week, but last week it was Natalie and I. We were talking chicken rather than talking turkey. I did sort of an impromptu list of 10 common ways to prep and consume chicken. I ranked them, counted them down 10 to 1, and gave some of my favorite places in Memphis to find various things. We're not going to subject you to a full 10, but let you jump in with a few favorites.
Yes.
If you're going to eat chicken, how are you eating chicken?
Well, I loved your list, by the way. I love the ranking. If people haven't listened to that, they need to go back. And you and Natalie made me so hungry listening to that this morning, actually. But I had a few additions that you didn't really cover. When you were talking about wings, I can't remember where wings was. I think it fell sort of middle of the list, which was a little surprising, but made sense. I don't think you mentioned the Good Fortune wings that have like the sticky Thai sauce. They're just delectable.
I still have not had the wings at Good Fortune. I've been to Good Fortune several times. I've written about it, did a big profile on Good Fortune. And I know everyone loves the wings there. And for some reason, whenever I've gone, it's just because wings are so ubiquitous across Memphis. I always want to get other stuff. Like I like the way they do the edamame there, the spicy edamame, tofu dishes, other things, obviously the ramen. I still have not gotten the wings. I just need to tell myself next time I go to Good Fortune, I'm getting the wings. I got to finally do it.
Yeah. Don't look at the price. It doesn't matter. That's not what this one's about. Just get them because they're really good and really expensive. For the chicken,
now, are these whole wings or are these separated?
They're separated.
Okay. I got to say,
but they're big.
I don't think I've ever agreed with another person as fully as Natalie and I agreed on every single aspect of our wing discussion last week. It was a real mind meld on our wing preferences. We like whole wings, but I'll eat the flats and drummies if you give them to me.
And we did not talk ahead of time.
It wasn't planned.
Hey, you quiet down over there. If you're not going to have a microphone, don't even bother. Natalie's tried to talk when she refused to have a microphone. The wings at Good Fortune.
Yeah, the wings at Good Fortune. Great stuff. I'm not like a huge wings person, so I'm not going to eat them very, very often.
Right.
So when I do, I'm like, yeah, I want the big fancy ones. For a chicken sandwich at Longshot, which is the shuffleboard bar restaurant
right
place
around the corner. We should leave and go play some shuffleboard as soon as we're done recording.
If it was open for lunch, I would be doing that because Chef David Todd there has a Korean fried chicken sandwich that has like pickles and Korean spices and sauces, and it sounds weird, but it's good. It's like a corn cheese on the sandwich.
Yeah. No, that is a very Korean thing. I don't know if that's something you can find as common in Memphis.
Right.
But yes, the corn cheese is something, because I've noticed it's looking at Korean menus in other cities when I visit, and that's a very common thing.
It's just really good there. Chicken tenders. You can eat chicken tenders as an adult because sometimes you just need some protein. I was
joking. I eat chicken tenders plenty. I'm not trying to character assassinate anyone who's out there eating chicken tenders above the age of 12.
That's fine. Sometimes that's what you need. And I actually think the ones from Bar Dog are the best. I only get them like once a year when I find myself at Bar Dog at a late hour. And I'm like, gosh, I'm really hungry. What do I need? And then I'm like, wow, these are like too good.
Bar Dog, justly famous for the Island Club. Yeah. I have not had the tenders there. That's a good note.
Really good. The other chicken dishes in Memphis.
You are a downtown diner is what I'm getting out of this list.
I am a lot of times, but here I go with East Memphis right now.
All right.
RP Tracks, actually, their chicken pita. If you're just going to get some like marinated, grilled chicken in a pita for
Arby
some
Track's
reason.
famous
So good.
due to Bianca Phillips for their barbecue tofu.
I love the barbecue tofu.
Yep.
But I also love this chicken in a pita with hummus feta situation that they have. Andalusia is the Moroccan restaurant over in St.
Love that
Gallen.
place. There
Yes.
we go. Yeah.
Really good.
That's a great place to get chicken dishes. Yes.
Yes. I mean, I got the couscous and it's got like the roasted almonds and the caramelized onions and it's just
I didn't think about them,
tasty.
but when I was talking about like, because it sounds boring at a distance in terms of, roasted chicken, grilled chicken, that kind of thing. But I talk mostly about like the Mexican and South American, like a Pollo Latino and Los Picosos. I should have thrown Andalusia in there for a different spice profile, but a similar like great treatment on a kind of baked roasted kind of chicken. Yeah.
Yes, so good. And when the weather gets colder, it's going to be, I'm going to be there.
Good. That's good, cool weather. Because there's like a stew element to what's going on and like
They serve it in the
clay
thing,
dishes
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, that place is great.
That's good. Well, I'm happy I got to throw it in there. And then lastly, Hyderabad House. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. Indian restaurant out on Hacks Cross.
So I've eaten there once.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ordered the best way. So what should I have gotten? What are you going to tell me about?
Well, when I go with a group of people and we order way too much food. So I've tried a bunch of different things. But I mean, really, even if you get like a butter chicken, like super, super basic, it's just better there than it is other places. But I like, again, I'm hoping I'm saying this right. I think I am. The biryani, just like marinated bone-in chicken layered over herbs and rice. You get this bowl, it just looks like a bowl of rice. But then you like kind of go treasure hunting in it and you find these delicious like morsels of really
I love that. The treasure hunt.
Yeah, I mean, you have to like dig in there and it's just really tasty. So try one of those. I mean, they've got like goat and stuff like that that's really good too. But if, my first couple of times I wasn't sure what I was ordering anyway, so I just went with the chicken. It's worth a try.
That was a good excuse to note, as I do frequently. Soundbites comes with a blanket apology for mispronunciations.
Yeah. I think those are right, though. Hyderabad House and biryani chicken.
Yes.
But
No, I
write me a letter if it's wrong because I want to learn. Thank you.
I think you did well. Yes, and we all want to learn. We are happy to be corrected on pronunciations. Well, that's good stuff. I got some stuff I agree with there, and I got some stuff I need to try, and so that I love it. All right, well, let's get into some news this week. Or not necessarily this week, but recent news. We haven't done a newsier pod in a few weeks, so let's catch up for some stuff. Some new news, some places we've gotten to or gotten back to, new to us at least. Not a great last week or so for restaurants in the Overton Square area. Ponta, not technically Overton Square, but it's right across the street. And so, yeah, so Belly Acres announced it was closing. Ponta sort of quietly closed. We had stories about both of those things. I did the Ponta story. I don't know. Where do we want to start with that? I assume you've eaten at both of those places?
I have. I've eaten at both of those places.
We are both Midtowners, by the way. So you live, I believe, on south of Overton Square. I live north of Overton Square.
Mm-hmm.
We're sort of meeting in the middle, meeting on the square right now.
Exactly. And maybe we should have been more often at these places to help them out. To tell you the truth, I really haven't been to Belly Acres in many years since they first opened.
Right.
I don't know why. And I guess that's kind of what we're talking about. I think, one of the things we had very briefly mentioned before we did this was, are there too many restaurants in Overton Square? I don't know that there were there too many restaurants. I don't know that there were. Maybe, but I think it's more like, do you want to eat at Belly Acres or do you want to eat at, there's like 3 or 4 other places you would rather eat unless you like have children.
Yes. So let's start with Ponta and Belly Acres specifically, then get into the broader Overton Square question a little bit.
Yeah.
So with Belly Acres, I went there pretty frequently when my kids were younger.
Yes.
That was burgers, fries, and milkshakes specifically, like with the kids. And so our son always wanted to go there, and we went there a lot. And to be totally honest, like even like 5-6 years ago, I'm like, wow, did I really pay this much for this?
Yeah.
There was that sort of issue to it. Mm-hmm. We haven't been in several years now since our kids are one of our kids is no longer in Memphis, but our kids are sort of graduated out of wanting to go there. And so I wonder, about that, aspect of it in terms of, pricing relative to the kind of food it was, burgers and fries.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. With Ponta, I feel bad I didn't go there more often. I think I ate there 3 times. One was the soft opening, and then one was a Friday lunch event we did. And then I went when they did their Portuguese pop-up,
Yes.
my wife and I went with friends, and we were there all night and ate like the whole menu, and it was spectacular. It was great. I feel bad that in 2 years is not nothing, 2 years, it was around 2 years. I feel bad that didn't work out, mostly because it was a big swing at something interesting.
Yeah,
and we have so many it's a burger place, it's a pizza place, it's a taco place, it's a whatever. I know Tonica opened around the same time, so it wasn't the only thing of its kind, but we don't have restaurants like that on every corner, right? And it was a real attempt to do interesting food in an interesting setting. And so I was rooting for that place hard, even though I didn't go there that often because I'm old and washed, and but I was rooting for that place hard because of that. I want more attempts to do interesting things. I think Good Fortune is an interesting place, right?
Right.
I want more interesting places in Memphis doing interesting food and not just another burger place, another steak place kind of thing. So I'm pouring one out with regret for Ponta closing.
I'm not. I mean, I think it's a real bummer because I agree with you. It was a big swing. It was giving something different. It was a really cool place. They were trying to do something with creating. They weren't trying. They were succeeding. To create this vibe. They had all the listening parties with the Beyonce album. And all of these things. They were trying to create a space and a safe space for people. And
a little bit younger, a little more, a little hipper kind of atmosphere,
right?
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't go there super often. And I mean, I'm not going out as late as
You're pretty young and hip.
I'm young and hip, sure, but I'm also not necessarily going to be going to the third location,
right,
of the weekend evening as often, right? Yeah. And then I'm just going to say this, and this is not meant in any kind of way, but if I am going to a third location, I need to eat some food, probably.
Right.
I might need a burger or aforementioned chicken tenders. So if I am going to go to a third location, I hate to say it, but I'm probably not going to go to a place with small plates where the point is to do the tasting.
Right.
Right. It wasn't really fitting with my schedule always. And I heard the same thing from other people. Now, that shouldn't be the reason why it didn't work. But I'm just saying why I didn't go there more often, to get the octopus is not necessarily what I'm going to want after I've been to the Shell and had a drink at another place. I don't know. The late night vibe a bit is something. So
yeah, well, and you would think in a theater district the late night vibe would. I don't know. It's interesting. So the Overton Square broader question is sort of interesting to me because I mean, so you have these two, and Ponta is not. This is if you read the story, it's not now going to be an empty space. It's there. It's going to become a private rental situation. That building is owned by the restaurant group that the Chef Kelly English is involved in. It's not just him; it's other people, but he's the front person for it.
Right.
So they own that building, so they're keeping that building.
So it might be a better, more focused use of that type of cuisine and that type of food.
It's only the issue where it shares the kitchen with Second Line next door. So it's gonna be a private rental space, private events. In fact, they're doing a private event during Indie Memphis. They're going to be a tasting after a screening. And what Kelly English told me when I talked to him is that they're still going to do public pop-up events there.
Yeah.
Which I hope so, because I think the pop-up stuff has been really interesting and really great. And so if you do hey, we're doing Portuguese stuff for 3 weeks and then it's going to go back to being a private space and you do that a few times a year, I think that would be kind of great, actually. So I hope that does continue. But the point I was getting to is that's not now an empty space that needs to be filled. It has a purpose. It's just a different purpose. But Belly Acres is going to be an empty space.
Mm-hmm.
You've already got what was Hop Dotty there on the corner, which has been empty for a long time. And what has been empty, I think, even longer is the space that once upon a time maybe was part of Paulette's, and then it was Schwein House. Mm-hmm. And then am I mad? Did I have a dream that it was a Stanley's Barbecue?
It was a Stanley's Barbecue.
Was that the most recent thing it was?
I believe so.
And then there was a story at one point that it was going to be, and I was excited about this, and for whatever reason, maybe it was a pandemic thing, and then it sort of never happened. But there was a story. I think we wrote it. Someone did. There was a story that it was going to be a Black-owned fine dining restaurant, and that former Grizzlies coach Lionel Hollins is one of the investors in this. And I thought that was fantastic idea, and I was really excited for that, and that never happened. And now that building's been empty for a long time, and so I don't know how much of that is the rents that you have to pay to go into Overton Square or what's going on, but a lot of empty spaces there right now.
It has to be partially the rents. It just does, which I understand. It's why the rents would be the way they are. I'm not saying neither here nor there,
right.
But that is what it is. It is a shame that space, especially to me, like the Schweinhaus / barbecue space is empty because it's such a big communal space, and I feel like those kind of spaces do well in Overton Square because what's the most popular places in Overton? It's Bayou, which is just a big sprawling casual place. You can bring a group, you can get in there and go. And the same actually to a certain extent, I think with Babalu, like if I have 5 people, we might be able to get in at Bayou or Babalu, but are we going to be able to get in?
And then you have
somewhere else. I don't know.
Well, when you think about like the real anchors, like the long-standing Old Steadies or whatever, Memphis Pizza Cafe and Golden India, both of which do tons of takeout business.
Right.
I give them both lots of takeout business. my most frequent Overton Square visits these days are pulling up to the alley and turning my flashers on and going to get Indian usually, but sometimes pizza from Memphis Pizza Cafe and taking it home. So those places have been there forever, and they obviously have loyal clienteles or what have you. So Babalu Bayou are sort of your most frequent visits at Overton Square?
Not really Babalu, honestly, but yeah, probably Bayou. I'll go to a Bosco's here and there.
Right. Bosco's also been around a long time.
It's been around a long time. It's kind of like when people go there, they know where they're going.
So what I do wonder about in terms of like and one of the things that I think this quote was in the story, but when I talked to Kelly English for the Pontiac Clothes, he talked about just how many restaurants there are, right? And sort of, and there's more new ones opening all the time, which we're going to get to, here as we get deeper into the pod. But I do wonder about the volume, and it's a theater district essentially, and restaurants and theater goes together well, right? You have like 5 theaters around, you have all these restaurants. What I've always felt, and I may be wrong about this, maybe this is something I would want to wish into existence and it would be a total failure, but I've always wondered about the lack of sort of third spaces between dinner and theater in the neighborhood. I think, and I know there's a coffee component to the hotel now a little bit, and there's a coffee component to Sweet Noshings, but not really. You can't sit down.
Yeah.
In Berkshire, is it 17?
Yeah.
It's kind of coffee component to that,
but they're like closed.
Not
right?
really, and certainly not open at night. Where like we got 40 minutes to kill between dinner and when our movie or play starts, kind of thing. What are we going to do? I've always thought that a coffee shop would be a good fit in Overton Square to have that sort of third hangout space in between things. And what I always wanted, like the space that's now Porch and Parlor, which neither of us mentioned. I have not eaten at Porch and Parlor, which before that was Bar Louie, and before that, it was empty for a long time. This was now going back a decade at least, but for a long time, that space when it was empty, I really wanted it to be like the bookstore cafe combo. Like the old school, like, Barnes & Noble, Borders Bookstore Cafe, or better yet, some local version of that. Like there's a bookstore in Washington and DuPont Circle that I really like when I visit there called Kinder Books. And it's a really nice local bookstore that's sort of, moderately sized, but significant local bookstore. And then you walk through the bookstore and there's like a nice cafe in the back. I've always thought like some kind of bookstore coffee shop, a place to browse, a place to buy something, to spend money, a place to sit for 30, 40 minutes, have a cup of coffee and talk to people. I think that's something that's sort of missing in Overton Square. I
agree with you. Now that you're saying it, it makes so much sense because I'm thinking about, I go to the movies a lot. I go to Studio on the Square for my movies a lot. And I do run into this where it's like, I don't have time to fully go get dinner somewhere, but I would like to have like a coffee or a drink or like grab a snack or something in a way where I don't have to like sit down and have a server and have a whole situation, right? If it's busy. So something like that would.
And I don't know that any of these now open spaces are conducive to that in the way that I think that big space in the corner was. But
they can make it work.
I'm just saying, some kind of coffee shop hangout spot. That drop in, drop out in between things, I think would make a lot of sense there.
I will go back and say probably if we're counting Second Line as part of Overton Square, that is definitely where I go the most often in Overton Square.
Yes. I used to go to Second Line a lot, and now I don't go out as much. So I go to Memphis Pizza Cafe in Golden India because of takeout, not sit down. All right. So we got about another 10, 15 minutes left. Let's stay in Midtown. We're going to go around the corner and down the street. And you are writing about a new bar that's coming to Cooper.
Yes. So I'm writing about the owners of Cameo, 3 veteran Memphis bartenders, are opening another bar. It's not a second location, so it's not Cameo 2. It's a totally different concept, and it's going to be the expansion of their Tropical Tuesday pop-up they do every week. On Tuesdays at Cameo, they kind of like put up the grass skirts and the tropical plants and the stuffed parrots, and they serve these tropical drinks and the fun glassware every week. So they're going to take that concept and build it out into a full-time tropical bar lounge, and it is going to be sort of by Hattie B's. There's like a realty place, and there's a cycle bar place, and there's a little storefront in between, and it's got wooden slats on the front, and it's a long narrow space, and it's going to be called Mary's Boat, BOTE. So it's kind of a little pun thing that they're doing with boat, and that's what they're doing.
So I feel like Cameo would have been my spot at a different point in my life.
Yes.
Because when my wife and I, when we were, our second place we lived in Memphis was right there at Madison and McLean. Not in the Gilmore, but some of the smaller apartments across the street, right? And so that was, when we were in our 20s and before we had kids, and and so our spots were the P&H and the Lamplighter, both of which were sort of walking distance from where we were. The old High Tone and Poplar, like those were kind of our spots, right? I feel like if I were that person now, if I were the person I used to be, Cameo would probably be my spot, right?
Yeah.
It sort of got that kind of vibe to it. It's a newer thing than old P&H Lamplighter,
right.
But in terms of that sort of,
it's much more upscale. So it's
right.
not trying to. When I say much more upscale, I mean than like the Lamplighter, which is so is my living room. So it's fine, but. Yeah, I definitely think it's a place with regulars. I mean, it's my kind of place. I'm definitely there, and when I go, I see people that I know. Right. So it definitely has provided that kind of space that was missing after maybe even some of these bars you mentioned, like P&H
closed.
Right? Even though they're focused on like a really good hospitality experience and craft cocktails.
Right.
Not that you can't just like get a beer there, but. That's what they've been focused on, and it's been successful. They said that business is doing well, knock on wood, and it's always been their plan for the three of them to kind of each have their own concepts that they were really passionate about in terms of bringing like a cocktail bar that wasn't exactly like anything we've had in Memphis. Like we had Atomic Tiki,
right,
but it wasn't really
pretty
exactly
short-lived.
Like
I never got around to that.
Yeah, it was only around for like a year. Like it was going somewhere, but it didn't quite get there.
That is where Tonica is now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is Mary's Boat, and boat is actually BOTE, and it stands for Bar of Tropical Escapism. So the other thing I'll say about that is that they're not calling it a tiki bar for a couple of different reasons. Like tiki, if you're a super cocktail nerd, you know that it has a fairly rigid definition in terms of menu. Like you're going to get like your zombie drink and your Mai Tai and your Singapore Sling, but you're not going to get a margarita.
Right.
You're not going to get a pina colada. Like technically that's not tiki.
Right.
And they know that people in Memphis like don't care. Like they want to have a boat drink, basically. They want to expand the definition of tiki to have what people actually want to drink in addition to those traditional ones too. So that's why they're going with it.
I'm here to tell you I'm pro fruity cocktail.
Right. So you're going to love it. I'm assuming.
I'm not a straight bourbon guy. I'm fine with give me a fruity cocktail. I'm happy.
I'm also excited that they're going to have like a larger outdoor space. And
okay.
It's all going to be decked out in tropical themes. So that'll be fun and something different for Memphis. And they're planning to open it before the end of the year.
Well, this is another step in what's been a years long thing that I wrote about a few years ago. I think when I was doing the 901 column at the CA. But, we've got Overton Square and we've got Cooper Young, but these things have been growing towards each other and sort of the links. Like, Rail Garden there on that on the biggest intersection between is sort of like the big thing in between. But whether it's Hattie B's or whether it's, it was Muddy's for a while, dearly departed Muddy's, but like the Mobay thing there and this coming in, there's sort of other stuff. Instead of like these two destinations, there's like a whole thing that's sort of growing together.
And Bari is now right there.
Right.
Yep. And Cafe
Bar Keo came in.
Bar Keo,
Yeah. And so I think that's a positive thing that like instead of these two separate districts, it's all sort of becoming one.
I would love it if it became really connected in terms of like you could sort of actually walk it.
I remember for a while, and I never wrote it, there was some little like shuttle bus that was going around.
Are you talking about the Rue?
Yeah, did you ever ride that?
I rode the Rue. I rode the Rue's maiden voyage, and I was never the same. It was a very strange thing.
I mean, I like the concept, the idea of like instead of the idea that you would drive from some place in Cooper Young to a place in Overton Square sounds ridiculous. Yet that is what we will do, you know. So the idea of having a way to get back and forth between those areas or all around that area, I think it's a good concept.
Maybe they should bring it back. I mean, because it's also like, do I want to walk? It's 1 mile between the two. Do I want to
it is walkable unless it's like really hot, but it's not walkable for Memphis.
Or really dark.
Yes,
and, like the sidewalk is weird.
Yeah.
And like, heaven forbid you're in a mobility device. You're not going to be able to be on the sidewalk. And then like sometimes the sidewalk disappears when it goes under. So if we could just really embrace this whole corridor, I think that would be so...
if we could,
so cool.
If we could make, and this goes for the whole city, we could make things more pedestrian friendly. I mean, I think that would do a lot in terms of better lighting and bedding.
We've done it.
we're solving all. We're fixing Overton Square. We're fixing the path between Overton Square and Cooper Young. We're fixing everything. We got a couple minutes left. We'll just hit a couple of things real quick. You made it out recently to something I'm going to try to make it out to this weekend, and that is the Majestic Grille has reopened their brunch.
Yes.
Brought it back. It was on hiatus or so for about a year, and now it's back. Give us the scoop on that. Tell me what I need to get this weekend when I go to Majestic Grille for brunch.
Look, I got the steak and eggs because I just wanted to get the steak and eggs. I didn't get the fancy steak. I got like the strip. It was like fairly reasonable. It was delicious, and it was a huge portion, and the service was great. We got a bunch of different appetizers, some dips. We got like a smoked salmon thing that was particularly good. Everybody liked their food. I mean, it's just a classic sort of mid to upscale brunch done very well. And that's it. And sometimes that's what you want. And we got the other people at the table. I got a Bloody Mary. It was great. The other people got like the bottles set up with the mimosas, and they brought us all the different juices. So it's just, like I said, it's not reinventing the wheel on brunch. It's just done really well. So I think you could get anything. They don't have the tiny biscuits, but they did have an assorted bread basket. And I think they're getting the bread from Hive. And it was really good. We all ate all the different breads, and like we're sharing all of it.
Look at that professional segue to what the last thing I was going to bring up before we get out of here. Mm-hmm. So have you been to either Hive, which recently opened down on Front Street near us, or the new Elwood Shack on Park?
I haven't been to Elwood Shack yet, sadly. And I actually haven't been to the Hive location that's open, but I have gotten their bagels from their takeout space several times, and I like it. It's good stuff. So
I had lunch at Elwood Shack yesterday, the new one, and it's super cool. They got a neat little like ice cream coffee bar in the back that's separate from the main space. They got lots of seating. It's a sort of cool, funky interior. I think it's going to be, it was packed when I went there in the middle of the day on a Monday. I think it's going to be really popular. I look forward to going back. I meant to go to Hive this morning on my way into the office. They are closed on Tuesdays. So closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. So tomorrow I'm going to try to go back to Hive. I failed down twice to go to Hive. The first time was during their soft opening. We were going to get some Hive and go down to the river to Tomley Park, and the line was down the street.
Yeah.
So we did not do that, but we did witness other people doing that. So that sounds like a good combo. Get some takeout from Hive and walk it down to the new Tomley Park. So I look forward to doing that in the future. That's our notes this week.
Yeah.
It was nice talking to you on the mic instead of just in the hallway or in the corridor here or wherever our offices are like.
Thanks for having me. We had a lot of good stuff.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening. This is obviously a transitional period for Soundbites Podcast in the absence of our late friend Jennifer Biggs. We're figuring it all out, but we're going to keep talking to you about food in some capacity every week as we get our food coverage figured out here. Still plenty of stuff to read at the Daily Memphian site on food from me, from Holly, from Josh Carlucci, from Kristen Yates, Sophia Surrett, from others. Lots of content, and you can subscribe to this pod and all of our Daily Memphian pods wherever you get your audio. We thank you for listening, and we're out of here.